Yo, Hegassen here, and today we are looking at the big middle film of the MCU, Avengers: Age of Ultron, the film that very much sets us up on our way to Endgame. So, what did I think about it? Let's get into it. So the film starts off and everyone's here.
Avengers.
And they are all attacking Von Strucker's base, helping Thor locate Loki's staff, which is now in the hands of Hydra. The first thing you kind of notice at the beginning of this film is, why is Cap there and why has Iron Man got a suit? Obviously at the end of Winter Soldier, Captain America said that he's going to go out and look for Bucky Barnes, and Iron Man at the end of Iron Man 3 said that he's destroying all of his suits and he's going to start again fresh. Okay, so you expect him to have, maybe he's one Iron Man suit, you know, he was going to tone it down a little bit, but instead he's got this entire like drone force of automated Iron Man suits. He seems to have gone even more suit crazy. In fact, wasn't he trying to stop all of the drones being made in Iron Man 2? And then he's gone and made them here. And in this film he's talking about like protecting the world in like a metaphorical suit of armour and stuff. So it just feels like his character's gone a little bit backwards in this film. But let's talk about this opening scene. It's pretty good. Hawkeye's here. Unfortunately, he goes down. I do always wonder, where was actually Hawkeye in Winter Soldier? But there's some good action in this scene. Sometimes it does feel a little bit CGI, a little bit green screen in the transitions and stuff. But for the most part, it's alright. Like I say, we've got Hawkeye here, and this film is finally a film where we actually get to see a lot of Hawkeye. Out of all of the films, you know, this is kind of like the Hawkeye movie, or at least close to the Hawkeye movie. In his last two appearances, one was just like a cameo, and the other one in Avengers, he was very much under control for most of the film, so we never really got to see him. But here we actually get a lot more of Hawkeye. He becomes a lot more fleshed out, and he's really kind of the relatable character in this film. He's very human. Thor is the mightiest Avenger. Captain America is the first Avenger. Hawkeye, he's very much the human Avenger. He has some great interactions later on in the film with the Maximoff twins, and they are two new characters that we get in this film, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. They're both pretty cool. It's very weird going back and hearing Scarlet Witch's really heavy accent in this film. Her powers aren't quite what they were in the comic books. They're more kind of telepathy and being like psychic and stuff, and going in people's minds and messing with their memories and stuff in this film, which apparently can also create future visions, because she's creating a lot of future visions in this film. Her powers really set up what's going to happen later on in the next phase of the MCU, phase 3, because throughout the film she gives everybody visions. Tony has a vision that might be hinting towards Infinity War and Endgame. You see all of the Chitauri in space, which obviously is playing back on his anxiety, but you see all of the Avengers, they're all dead, laying on the floor. And then you get Hulk's one, which is a great big clear reference to Infinity War, as well as Thor Ragnarok. So a lot of hints in this film. Later on we get one with Black Widow, which sadly isn't a hint for any film, but it's kind of cool to see her backstory. I do wish we actually get to see this later on the big screen in an actual Black Widow film, but as it stands so far that hasn't happened, so still, you know, fingers crossed for that Black Widow film. So yeah, Scarlet Witch is pretty cool. Quicksilver, he's alright in this film, I do like him, but the only problem is that obviously around the exact same time Days of Future Past came out, and they had the Quicksilver, and in many regards they kind of did it better, at least in terms of showing off his powers and stuff. They did it in a lot more interesting way. There are a few good shots in this film. Later on you see him catch Thor's hammer and he goes flying backwards, and you get the shot where the bullet is coming up in slow motion. But for the most part, his powers aren't really utilised as well as they were in Days of Future Past. Also, I'm not really sure how I feel about the fact that after he's zipping around for a little bit, he gets out of breath. Also in this beginning intro scene, a lot of stuff in this beginning intro scene. We get the Hulk lullaby scene with Hulk and Black Widow. I really like this scene. I really like seeing their relationship start to form. It was definitely hinted at in the first Avengers, and very much a follower of the Bruce Banner x Black Widow ship.
Yeah, boy. Oh.
And it's the character interactions that in this first scene are really noticeable. In fact, throughout the entire film, the character interactions are definitely the highlight of this movie. I like all their little quipping and their banter and their back and forths. I like the fact that Cap complains about language and everyone has a go at him for that. Although he complains about language, but then we get that scene where he grabs a guy, drags him face first along the floor, and then flicks him at somebody and they hit into a tree. So, watch your language, but also you're being a little bit heartless to this guy. His face is going to be permanently damaged, right? And when they get into the base, they get the scepter and they get some Chitauri tech. Included among it is some experiments in artificial intelligence using Chitauri computers and stuff. And this is where we start to get into the core of the film. This is where we start to get into the Age of Ultron, because Tony, with his kind of obsessive personality that's popped up and wanting to protect the world, he wants to use this artificial intelligence to create what he's called the Ultron project, something that he's been brainstorming with Banner. And he wants to do it. He only has a few days with the staff, so he just wants to roll it out quickly and do it a little bit in secret. This is where elements of Civil War start to come in. We start to get those different of opinions between Iron Man and Captain America. This film, forget Age of Ultron, it's very much Age of Hints. A lot of hints in this film. We're only a few scenes into the film and we've already set up for Ragnarok, we've already set up Infinity War, we've already set up Civil War, and I do like this scene. I really like the scene of Jarvis meeting the Chitauri intelligence, Ultron. It's a really good scene, seeing them clash. It really reminds me of so many other aspects from sci-fi. In particular, it reminds me of that Terminal film from Halo of Guilty Spark meeting the Covenant intelligence. I really like that. While all of this is going on, the Avengers, they have a party. And this is definitely my favourite scene of the entire film. I love it. We have Falcon there, so he actually is still about, and this is where we find out that he's doing all of Cap's dirty work in looking for Bucky. And War Machine's there, and that's great because in the last Avengers film I was like, where's War Machine? Finally, he's in this film and he's telling his War Machine stories. I love that, but I want to see him. Let me see the War Machine stories, Picks up a tank and he throws them. Sounds interesting. I want to see the War Machine stories. We get a little bit more with Banner x Black Widow, which is nice, and all these interactions are great. There's a great little Stan Lee cameo as well, and of course the party ends in probably one of the best scenes in all of the MCU, which is the scene where they're all trying to pick up Thor's hammer. That's great, although where'd Falcon go? Did he get some intel on Bucky and had to leave? He's completely gone. At least War Machine's still there. I love watching them though, all trying to pull up the hammer. I like Iron Man and I like War Machine's attempts at it. I like the fact that Banner is playing off on these Hulk thing and nobody's intimidated this time like he was when he did it to Black Widow back in Avengers. And, of course, we got the Captain America scene where it moves a little bit and Thor's like, WTF? And then, thankfully, he doesn't pick it up and he plays it off like so cool. This is really where you first start to notice kind of Chris Hemsworth and Thor's kind of comic potential in this film. That definitely becomes more of a thing in Thor Ragnarok, and I really like that. And of course, this is where we get our first real introduction to Ultron. And I really like his first introduction. He comes out in this broken body. It's very creepy. He's very confused. He's quite intimidating. It really sets him up as a really cool character, really cool villain. This is kind of really what I expected his character to be when we saw it in the trailers and stuff. Unfortunately, later on in the film, he starts to get a little bit quippy. He's taking on elements of Tony Stark and stuff, because obviously he attacked Jarvis and he took a little bit of Jarvis, and he's been watching Tony Stark through all the CCTV and stuff. So he's got a lot of Tony Stark in him. Unfortunately, I don't kind of think quippy Ultron works as much as crazy, scary, intimidating Ultron that we get at the beginning, and that we definitely got in the trailers. When you first hear his kind of more comic lines in this film, it takes you out of it a little bit, kind of, or at least took me out of it a little bit, like, oh, hang on, I weren't expecting that. And I think really the main problem there is that for a lot of the film he's with the Maximoff twins, and they're very serious characters. You know, they want to get back for Tony for stuff that happened with Stark Industries in their past. And then you've got Ultron quipping all jokes at them, and they just kind of hit a brick wall, and there's no bounce back.
Invaders create Avengers. People create smaller people. Children. I lost the word there.
When Ultron gets his new body, which, by the way, he made that pretty quickly, didn't he? That is one other little nitpick I have with this film, is that the time scaling of it. It feels like it happens within like a day, maybe 2 days, but then a lot of the stuff that happens seems like it should need weeks or so to happen. The main one being later on in the film when Ultron does his final plan of Meteor, and he makes that city rise up into the air, and it's got all like these booster rockets and stuff, and this big platform in the middle. That feels like it should have taken weeks, months worth of infrastructure to actually build and stuff. Yet in the actual timeline of the film, it feels like it happened like the next day. So I find that a little bit jarring. Also, there's a scene where 1 second they're all in the Avengers Tower talking, and then the next scene, Tony Stark is all the way in Europe in like the internet headquarters, which I like how you got the entire internet and then you just access it through like one little computer in the middle of the room. So yeah, the timescales in this film feel a little bit off, especially like I say here, where 1 second he's in like a old crumpled suit, and then now he's in like a really nice designed, cool, intimidating suit. But I do like his design, it looks very cool, there's definitely some comic book elements in there. His face, he kind of really reminds me of Garrus from Mass Effect. I can't help but when I look at Ultron, I see Garrus. I don't know what it is, I think it's the lips, or like lack thereof, like little flappy lips. And we also then get our first hints, another film, more hints, Age of Hints, on Wakanda. And we get to see Claw, and that's great, I love Claw. That is how you do a intimidating yet funny villain. I can't wait to re-see him in Black Panther. And this scene here on the boat, that's really good. This is where we get a lot more of those visions and flashbacks. And that obviously, or flash forwards I should say, and that goes into the Iron Man versus Hulk scene. The big scene that we saw in all of the trailers. Iron Man in his Hulkbuster suit fighting Hulk, who's gone a little bit crazy because of Scarlet Witch's magical work, and he's smashing up this city. This is more Age of Hints, kind of starting that conflict between Banner and Hulk that we later see in Thor Ragnarok. And that's a great little action set. This, unfortunately, the world is a little bit angry at the fact that Hulk has destroyed the city. It's the Avengers, they have to go and lay low. And this again is where we get a lot more of Hawkeye's character. We go to Hawkeye's home, we find out he has a family, some really nice stuff there, a lot of good character scenes, like Tony and Cap when they're outside chopping logs and stuff. That's really nice. And then we get more of Banner x Widow, which is good. Also, you know, you get to find out a lot of hints here that Clint and Nat had a lot of like history in the past. They're really good friends. She obviously knows about his family and stuff, but come on, I want to see that in a film. Please, one day let me see all this in a film. What happened in Budapest? And from here, we get into the big final part of the film. This is where Ultron, he's got his vibranium now, and he wants to make a new body. So he's got this device that can kind of 3D print him a new body. This leads into this chase scene where he's got the capsule that's making the body in the back of a truck. And there's this weird scene where the truck the robots go underneath the truck and they fly up, and the back of the truck is flying through the air. And I don't know if it's meant to be funny, but I find it funny. It looks a little bit weird. The CGI on that isn't that good. The Avengers, they managed to get a hold of this capsule, and this is where we get the Vision. You know, we're nearly at the end of the film and boom, another big important character. Tony has managed to retrieve a lot of Jarvis, put him back together. They put Jarvis into Ultron, which is also powered by the Mind Stone that we find in this. And again, Vision's creation is a lot more of the Cap versus Iron Man stuff set up. And yeah, Vision appears. It's near the end of the film. Big character introduction. It's a cool scene. I like it when he grabs Thor's hammer. It proves that he's a mighty and worthy Avenger. Because until that point, everyone was a little bit like, oh, we don't trust you. He catches the hammer, then everyone's like, yeah, okay, this guy's cool. But, I don't know, Vision, he's not a character that I'm that interested in. I feel like in later films, he's not really used to his full potential. But he's alright here. He does have a nice badass moment at the beginning. And it's good that now Jarvis, well, kind of Jarvis, is actually a fully fledged character in the films. And then we're in the big final scene where Ultron's doing his plans to send the city up in the air, Sokovia, to then drop it down like a meteor. It's a little bit ridiculous. It's alright. It's not my favourite end final scene. It's definitely not as good as the one in the Avengers, I find. Ultron's got this army of like robot suits that he's using. I guess technically they're all actual Ultron, and he's just using them to attack the Avengers. I don't really find them that intimidating. They kind of get broken apart very easily. I feel like the Chitauri were a little bit more intimidating. At least they had giant flying space eels and stuff, and chariots that they were whizzing around them. This one, it just feels a little bit easy. There are some good scenes in this, in particular Hawkeye with the Maximovs, that's really nice. But the main problem here is that you have to evacuate everybody off of what I now guess is a floating island. And I feel like this evacuation, the search and rescue stuff goes on a little bit too long. It's a little bit too much of this final fight. We do get that big epic scene where they're in that church and they're all flying around beating up the Ultron robots. I remember when I watched that in IMAX, that was amazing. Now when I go back to it and I watch it, I'm like, it's a little bit cramped in there, isn't it? You know, there's like bits of robot flying about all over the place as they're destroying them, beams going off everywhere, lightning. Wouldn't they be hitting each other? Wouldn't they be getting like flecks of metal and armor going in each other's eyes and stuff? Again, I don't think it's as good as the one that we got at the end of Avengers, where we swing around New York and we see everyone fighting. Quicksilver dies. I'm not too sad about that because going into this film, I kind of suspected that he was going to die anyway. There was all this teasing that a character's going to die, and to be honest, he seemed like the most logical choice. Ultron gets killed off. I still hope in a little bit that maybe he somehow survived. Maybe there was one Ultron drone that got out there, or he managed to slip into the internet or something. I mean, Jarvis survived earlier on by doing that. So yeah, maybe hopefully Ultron's still around. Again, I wasn't too sad seeing him die here because I don't think he was as good a villain as I was expecting him to be. I was definitely expecting him to be a lot more sinister, a lot more like twisted and evil. But in the end, he just came off like a little bit weak, a little bit too quippy. And that's it. Age of Ultron. Looking back, when I first saw this film, you know, it's very much that mid-season final film. You watch it, you get all these hints about future content, you get to the end and you're like, whoa, no, I want more, give me more. And then when you go back and watch it, you're like, no, it doesn't feel complete. I want more. I want to see where everything leads to. Now that we've pretty much got everything that's been set up, just one more film to go, going back and rewatching it today, I actually really enjoyed it a lot more. It's still not my favourite of the MCU. For me, it's not really as good as the original Avengers. I feel like this film fluctuates a lot more. There's highs and then there's lows, highs, lows. I don't really enjoy the final scene as much as I enjoyed the final scenes in other MCU films, particularly the Avengers. I do really like the character moments and stuff in this film and stuff. Like I say, that party scene was really good. The Thor's hammer scene I really enjoyed. Seeing the starts of the conflicts for Civil War and stuff I really enjoyed. But overall, I think Age of Ultron is definitely better than a lot of people give it credit for. For me, Age of Ultron, it's a purple tier. Probably a high purple tier, but it's a purple tier nonetheless. So, that was it. Age of Ultron. Or Age of Hints. Hey, so thanks for watching. What did you think? Let me know about it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed my video, maybe give it a like, and if you really liked it, why not subscribe? You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram and Twitch. Oh, and here's a related video you might enjoy, and something more fresh. I've been Hegassen, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!